Welcome to Pointless Conversations. I'm your host, Jesse, and I'm joined here with Johnny and Marcy, who's new to our podcast. Say hi.
Hi.
All right. So we're going to talk about Superman, and particularly My Adventures with Superman. The season just ended, and we're going to talk about it and what our overall thoughts on the series, because I'm a huge Superman fan, and I lost my page. We will edit this. Yeah, so we're going to talk about this, and Johnny and Marcy are new to Superman. This is like their first like real like exposure, like seeing something Superman related.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
I want to see their like perspective and their opinion on the mythology or the tone or the characters, you know, the main cast and stuff. So yeah, I would like to hear what you guys think about it. So I'm going to start with like the overall dynamic of the main three characters. We're going to talk about Clark, Lois, and Jimmy. So me personally, like, I like their dynamic. I think their dynamic is really good, especially Jimmy Olsen, because Jimmy Olsen in the past have been regulated to like a really like side character, so he's not like important. In past iterations of Superman, like, they kind of just...
Yeah, I didn't even know who he was. I didn't think he was an actual
He's
character.
usually played by a white...
Mm.
He's usually white in most iterations. Recently, he's been a black character.
Yeah.
Which, to me, like, the race thing, like, for that particular character doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not essential to his character. So it could be anybody, pretty much. But I like that he's kind of part of the three main characters, because sometimes he's not.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just Superman and Lois.
Yeah. I mean,
So-
even with this, he's kind of pushed to the side still. Like, it's
Yeah.
centered on Superman and
But
Lois.
trust me,
But he's a lot more in the
he's
spot.
more
Yeah, I get what you're
active.
saying.
Yes, yeah, he's more active. He's more involved with the plot than previous versions of the character. So I really like that, and I like Lois and her dynamic with him also, and Clark's, like, his friendship with him and stuff. So
Yeah.
I really like that. I like the tone. What's your overall impression? Because you guys never seen like anything Superman related. Do you want to start?
Sure. I mean, I thought it was really good. I never would have watched it without Johnny. Because first of all, I didn't even know it was out. I didn't know this was a thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was really funny. And I don't know, their personalities were great. I was falling in love with Clark.
Yeah, I think Clark was the best, because the dynamic is very different from previous versions. That's my next point, is that the overall tone of the series is a lot different from what we had previously. I think lately, when they do like Superman in other medias, it's very dark and very like recently.
Yeah.
So I like this tone because it's like it's needed. Like, 'cause I don't mind a darker Superman, but I like the tonal shift of being a little bit lighter. And even though there is dark moments in this series, I like that it has a lighter tone and it has humor in it, because the previous version was Man of Steel, which, if you haven't seen Man of Steel, which I want you guys to watch it.
Is that animated or it's a regular?
No, it's live
That's
action.
live action.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's probably like completely like tonally different from this.
Yeah. Well, I feel like the whole Batman versus Superman thing is what makes them take the darker turn with Superman
Yes.
now.
Because Batman versus Superman, it gets like even darker.
Yeah.
Because it's Man of Steel came first, and then so we've had a couple of years of a very like brooding Superman, like not the bright and optimistic Superman.
Yeah.
Or the clumsy like Clark Superman.
Yeah.
So this series is a breath of fresh air because we've had that other version for so long that I just needed a palate cleanser to like, okay, this is like the new Superman. I like this tone. Like, let's keep it light. Even though there are dark moments in the series, I feel like the tone is just right for now. I'm not opposed to a darker version, but I like a more optimistic, brighter Superman. I mean, we have Batman for a reason. We don't need two. We don't need two Batmans.
The Dark Knight.
So Johnny, so what's like your overall with the 3 and the tone of it all?
So I'd have to say that like I really enjoyed the show so far. Especially like when I first saw the trailer, I was not a superhero buff in general, let alone a fan of Superman. So this was completely new for me. The only reason why I was so drawn to it was mostly because of the animation. The style is really what got me. That helped set the mood for it, I think. And then once I saw the trailer and I saw Lois Lane and Clark Kent, I really loved their designs and just the idea of shipping them.
Yeah.
I'm going to be one of those people.
And with the animation thing, can we just talk about the intro? Like, that is amazing.
Is such smooth animation.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous. Go ahead.
That was the second point I was going to talk about.
Oh. So then maybe
Skip it ahead.
Sorry.
It's
maybe
fine.
let Johnny finish.
Yes, the animation is also unique because we haven't had an anime-inspired Superman before. We've had Superman in the past in animated forms. One of my favorite versions is one from the 90s called Superman the Animated Series, but that has more of a classical like American like animation style. But an anime inspired like Superman is makes this one a little bit unique. And if you want to elaborate on that.
Sure. I mean, I feel like a lot of the older versions of Superman I've seen in passing. Like I said, I've never been a huge superhero buff, so I think the only superhero show that I actually wanted to watch or enjoyed was the original Teen Titans back in the day.
I don't think Superman was ever in that one, but I think he was mentioned. Maybe.
Well, yeah, because it's all the sidekicks. He was definitely mentioned. I mean,
yeah.
They mentioned Batman for sure. They had to because Robin is the leader. But along the lines of the animation style, I've been getting more and more involved watching different anime. So seeing this version of Superman or Superman drawn in this style was very new and intriguing to me. I was really excited to go with see where they were going to go with it. And then going back to how I see the dynamic, I love the dynamic between the trio. I think they're super funny, very relatable characters.
Yeah.
Clark Kent is probably my favorite, even though I wanted it to be Lois Lane, but I have reasons for that. But Clark is just like this adorable, goofy guy. And what I love about how the show went about this was he had no idea what Krypton even was. He spent his life being a human, learning human things. Even though he had this power, he did nothing but try to be more human. And he recognized that his power wasn't human, but still confided in them anyway. And so now that he kind of sees what he is, it's this whole like epiphany of a thing for him.
Do you want to elaborate on that? Or the animation? Because you were talking about the animation earlier.
Oh, I don't even remember what I was saying earlier. I don't know. The animation was really cool. I haven't personally seen anything really, I guess, like that.
Yeah.
From what off the top of my head, right? Like what? I don't know. Have we watched anything that's
I mean,
like so similar to it?
Have
I
you
really
seen
don't.
Avatar: The Last Airbender.
No, I never watched
Avatar.
that.
Oh,
I
that's
am,
like
though.
that's like the only like.
I do like Zuko though.
Who doesn't love Zuko?
That's like the only one that I can compare it to.
And
like,
and that was done
style-wise.
so long ago though. Like this is
Yeah.
more of an updated version. I
Yeah.
guess yeah. Like they,
Though I
and-
think the animation in this one's a little better.
Yeah, it was-
This early Avatar. You could tell that was
yeah.
choppy.
It was very I don't know. I liked looking at it. It was great.
I like it too because we haven't had Superman like that before.
Yeah.
We've had Teen Titans that was inspired by anime, so that's like the closest thing in the DC universe that has an anime flavor to it.
Yeah.
Now there has been like direct-to-video movies that DC has done that has some anime influences, but Batman in particular I think has a couple. There's a couple that are like anime influence, but like a series of all the characters in that universe, like you have Batman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Flash. Flash would be good in anime actually, but Superman just feels right in anime for some reason more than any other character. There's a couple. There's some in the Marvel universe too that I feel like are like that would be nice. Even though I'm not a huge Spider-Man person, like him as an anime would probably be interesting. Maybe it'll make me watch it. Like
I do think that the animation does help add to the tone though.
yes,
Keeping it light
Yes.
and airy, like it
yes.
it really does
Yeah.
contribute
Yes.
with. It's just so vividly colored.
I would love to see what they do when they finally introduce Batman, because
Yeah.
that's gonna happen.
That's gonna be interesting.
They,
Just immediate
I
like
think the producers,
grayscale.
I think the producers of the show have hinted that he will show up.
Okay.
Because they already had like mentions of Gotham City. And
yeah.
They had that one character, Vicky Vale, show up.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think he's going to show up eventually.
I just want to know if Crypto the Super Dog is going to make an appearance.
Hey, the Superman movie that's supposed to come out in 2025, Superman Legacy, they already confirmed that Crypto's in that
Oh
movie.
my gosh, yes. I've only ever seen him in the one cartoon. They used to play on Cartoon Network or Boomerang. It was literally Crypto the Super Dog, and that was my only interpretation of him. But I loved him.
Because the director of Superman Legacy, who also directed all the Guardians Galaxy movies, because he used to work for Marvel, but now he's with DC. They asked him on what's now X, it used to be Twitter. They asked him, "Oh, is Crypto the Super Dog going to be in the movie?" And he said yes.
Oh, nice.
So that means it's happening. We're gonna see Crypto.
I love that.
Crypto has been in live action before though.
Oh, okay.
In Titans, which is also on Max, but we're getting off topic.
Oh, I know that show. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I liked it, but it could have been better.
I went to start it, but I got bored. I'm not even gonna lie. It was. I think the episodes are long, right? They're like 40 minutes.
I think they're like an hour.
An hour? Oh, that's. It's that,
Maybe,
and then
or
it's
at least
just.
close to an hour.
Yeah, it is a really dark, like
I just had a-
picture to look at, you know. So
It just looked like they didn't have enough money to do what they wanted to do
Yeah.
because the costume just looked cheap, and the only character that looked good in that show was Robin, or later becomes Nightwing. But everybody else, I don't know. I liked it at first, and then I dropped it. I didn't finish it, and I'm a huge fan of Teen Titans. I love Teen Titans. I want to talk about like the villains. So I have more like experience, like because I know these villains.
We
I
do
want-
not.
So the first one I want to talk about that's probably one you might be familiar with, that shows up a little bit younger in this version of Superman, is Deathstroke. You guys might know him as Slade Slade from Teen
Oh,
Titans.
that's right.
I do not.
You've never seen Teen Titans?
I didn't watch the original one. When I was
Not
going...
Go.
I know, that's why
Yeah.
I'm saying. When I was growing up, they had Teen Titans Go, and I wasn't on Cartoon Network like that, so...
Teen Titans Go.
Slade was such an intense character. When I was younger, I was actually scared of his character.
Mm.
He was a hardcore
Yeah.
villain. He was cold-hearted
Let me look up what he looks
and
like.
very calculating.
Slade
has-
Wilson?
Yeah, he
Yeah.
has like an orange and black, like half his mask is like orange and the other half is like
Yeah.
black. He's in this series, but they made him younger and he's not wearing the mask as much. So it was cool to see Deathstroke in there working with Amanda Waller, which if you don't know, Amanda Waller also formed Task Force X.
Oh!
Yeah, that's Deathstroke, yeah. And he has white hair in the comics, so they just made him younger, because he's usually a much older character.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's, when I first saw him in Superman, My Adventures, I thought he was a badass there, too. I didn't realize that's who it was, but
Yeah.
now that's
He's-
such an interesting correlation.
Yeah, he's always been like a badass in like most of the different versions that he's been in. He's like an assassin. That's pretty much
Yeah.
his role. He goes toe to toe with Batman a couple times. He's sort of like, he's not a villain per se for like a certain hero like Superman. Like he's kind of like an overall villain of that universe.
Mm-hmm.
So he's clashed with Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman. He's clashed with almost everybody. He's like trained in like all sorts of like fighting. But I like the more like modernization of his character in this series. The other one I want to talk about is Livewire. Livewire, they changed her origins a little bit because it looks like they don't really go into her like origin story.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was introduced to Livewire, she was actually introduced not in the comics, but she was introduced in the Superman animated series of the 90s.
Okay.
And she was a radio host that really hated Superman for like no reason. She would go on a radio and like just talk shit about
Haters gonna hate.
because it's like, oh, he's a goody two shoes, like, which people say that now in real life. Like,
That name makes a lot of sense though
Yeah.
now.
So she was like a shock jock. She's like at the time like Howard Stern was like super. I mean, he's still around, but at the time he was like
he was
the guy of radio before everybody else had a radio show or a podcast. But she decided to do like a festival outside on a stage when it was like storming, so security's trying to like, hey, you can't like do this concert here while it's storming, and of course the wiring and all the stuff, she gets hit by lightning, and that's how she gets her lightning powers.
Wow.
And then she becomes a villain.
Who could have guessed that was
Yeah.
gonna happen?
She's a villain. She still hates Superman. So, but this version of Livewire is a little bit more like more techie compared to the original. But she was an original creation for that show, for the animated series from the 90s.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Which Harley Quinn was also a original creation for the show. But she blew up and became so popular that they incorporated her into like everything now.
Yeah. We
But-
love Harley Quinn.
Yeah. The other one that looks really different from like the traditional is Silver Banshee. She was the one that had like the sonic scream
Yeah.
thing.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. She looks very, if you look up like original looking like Silver Banshee, she actually looks like a banshee. Like she had white hair, she had like a weird skull, like makeup looking. Like
Isn't she in Mortal Kombat or something?
There's
it's
a
one of the
character
fighting
that's very
games.
similar looking.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, but her whole shtick is the sonic
Screaming
voice
into the
Yeah.
void, yeah.
and killing people with it. But they made this one a little like she has like a weird like some mask on or something. So again, they made this one a little bit more techy
Mhm.
than just like organically
Yeah.
happening.
Well, I guess that's all because of the plot that they chose
yes,
to
because they
follow.
decided to make it like they didn't call them the Suicide Squad, but they technically were. They called them Task Force X.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's their official name, but
Mhm.
then they among themselves they call themselves the Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
So that was sort of like the prototype Suicide Squad, so
Mhm.
to speak. But they didn't have any like Batman villains or like because the Suicide Squad's usually like a bunch of like villains from all over the DC universe.
They're kind of like anti-heroes.
yes.
Yeah.
Most of the ones in that group were Superman villains.
Mhm.
So that's the only difference between like comic book and movies Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
Because Suicide Squad is more a mix of everybody's villains.
Mhm.
Like, oh, here's some Batman villains, here's some Superman, here's some Flash villains thrown in there. So, and then Parasite was the other one. Is another villain that is very different from the original. Parasite normally is an actual like creature
Mm-hmm.
where in the he gets into some toxic like mess accident and his body changes, like he literally turns purple, and some versions he's like a monster or like a blobbish thing, and his powers are the same, like he touches somebody and he absorbs their energy or their powers. That's why he's a dangerous villain, because as soon as he touches Superman, he's as powerful as Superman.
Yeah.
So that's the whole point of his character. Now the difference is, again, they went with the whole tech thing,
Right.
and it was more of a suit that fused with the host.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So that's the difference with this version of Parasite. And also the host is different. I can't remember what the original Parasite's real name was, but it wasn't Dr. Ivo like it is.
This guy was like a Jeff Bezos knockoff.
Quite literally.
Because Dr. Ivo is also responsible for creating a lot of evil androids in the DC universe. He's not creative with the names either, because one he creates is called Amazo. Yeah, it's really...
my
Well, wasn't his thing called Amazotech, and that's why we were like, oh my
Yes.
god, Amazon.
So that means that in season 2, we're probably going to see Amazo at
Yeah.
some point. I have a feeling.
Okay.
Amazo it's the same concept almost.
Mm-hmm.
It's an android that just... and like how Parasite like touches and like absorbs the power, Amazo is just a robot or an android with like sort of artificial intelligence that will adapt.
Mm-hmm.
So if he's
Alexa.
fighting Superman,
Sorry.
so like yeah, he or he or she, because it's a robot, it has no.
They.
They Jesse,
It has-
they them.
It technically doesn't have a gender.
Get with the time.
It usually whoever he fights, he just learns and adapts, and if he fights, they, he, she, whatever.
God.
Usually, if he's fighting Superman, like he will eventually get as strong as Superman.
Yeah.
If he's fighting the Flash, he will eventually get the speed of Flash. And so forth. Like whoever he fights, he learns from that and then adapts it to his own, and it changes his body and stuff like that.
Nice.
He's not on the show yet, but he probably will be in season 2. And then there's a couple other ones. My favorite one, and this is going to be my favorite episode, which I'm going to ask which ones were your favorite episodes.
Okay.
I
So I'm
couldn't.
gonna segue to that.
I couldn't tell you a number, just to let you know. I'm gonna have to
No, just-
describe the episode.
Yeah, just describe it. That's fine. My favorite episode, and this segues into the still the villain conversation, is Mr. Mxyzptlk. That is the imp from the 4th dimension.
The League of.
Oh
League of
yeah, he
Wallace.
was
I
hilarious.
love that
Great.
episode. I love this interpretation of this character. He is a very iconic famous Superman villain.
Yeah.
And the way he's been portrayed in the past, he's always been like a weird, impish old man for some reason. But this version of him, I like.
I love characters like that. He really reminded me of, I felt like it was like a little piece of Hell of a Boss added into that.
Yeah.
Like, just his personality.
For me, it was like...
I know.
I've never watched Dragon Ball Z, but his design reminded me of Dragon Ball Z, and then his personality reminded me of Double Trouble from the
She-Ra.
most recent She-Ra on
Yeah.
Netflix. Very similar personality, but he one-upped the fun
Mhm.
just a little. But he was a very interesting character to watch. He was a lot of fun.
Now, I have a question about this episode, though. Like, would you consider the League of Loises kind of villainous in this one? Because I would, personally. Or
Well,
maybe
it-
anti-heroes.
They could go villainous, yeah.
LOLs, you know?
Because in that same, in that same episode, they reveal that there's villainous Superman, so there
Yeah.
must be villainous Loises.
Well, I'm saying that group in this episode specifically, because what they were doing, I'm sorry, they were doing too much. Like,
Yeah.
they didn't even, he caught, I don't know his name, I'm sorry, the imp guy.
Yeah.
Superman caught him, and then they still fired after Superman first when they were originally looking for both
Yeah.
of them, but still.
I think it's the fact that in all their worlds, their Superman went bad.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably why. Maybe they overstepped their boundaries.
Can I
but-
curse on here?
Yeah.
Oh. They're bitches.
Yeah.
League
But
of Bitches.
as the plot reveals itself,
League of
I
Losers.
realize that our Clark that we're following is kind of the only good one.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Because every
He's like a
version they
puppy.
saw
Yeah.
was evil.
Mm-hmm.
So,
It's just, to me, it was the fact that our version of Lois Lane was a specific way, and they knew that and could see that, but they didn't know or think to give our Superman a chance. They just shot him immediately. I'm like, wow, okay.
it's called trauma. When you have trauma, you lose trust in things.
Wow.
They were
that's
projecting.
that's
They just need to go to
a whole
therapy.
can of worms.
They were like, listen, Lois, this is gonna happen.
They just need therapy.
I love that for them.
And they basically tried to disown this Lois Lane.
They
Like,
really did. They said,
you're not Lois!
Well, because they get this.
You're
they-
not like us.
they
Box
get-
her away.
They get this Lois that hasn't accomplished anything yet. Like, she's just
Yeah.
starting out, while all these other Loises are like, oh, I'm a scientist,
Yeah.
I'm this, I'm the greatest reporter in the world.
On Wednesdays-
And she's like, oh, I'm an intern.
On Wednesdays, we capture bad Superman. Mean Lois.
Was that your guys' favorite episode?
No.
That was yours.
That was my favorite episode. You guys are shitting
That's
on
in
my
the top,
favorite
like,
episode.
3, I guess.
I loved it mostly because of Mr. Mxyzptlk.
Yeah,
That's
yeah. I
and I
really
like the
enjoyed this
anime
character.
references that the Easter eggs of
Yeah.
anime. There was like anime props, and there also not only was there anime Easter eggs in there, there were also Easter eggs for other characters in that DC universe. Like you see Dr. Fate's helmet, you see. That's the only one I can remember right now. But yeah, the Dr. Fate helmet. There's a couple other things like in there that. Oh, I think there was a Green Lantern ring, but I'm not 100% on that. There might have been a Green Lantern ring.
Maybe.
Maybe.
I would have noticed it when I was watching. Like, I'm not gonna remember now.
Yeah. Me being the DC fan here, like I was like, oh my god, I know what that is.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple other villains that I'm just gonna briefly mention. Like, I'm gonna briefly mention the ones I did not care for. The Brain and the gorilla guy.
Oh my god.
Sure Mala or whatever. I can't even pronounce the name.
In the end, they weren't even villains.
No.
No. They were
But what's
just-
funny is that they are.
This whole time, sorry, she
Yeah.
was like, "This is so stupid."
I was upset.
I'm like, it's for the plot. It's fake.
I mean, don't get me wrong. We love queer icons.
Yeah.
We love characters that are like that.
It was
but
literally a filler
it
episode.
felt like a filler episode. They personally didn't make a lot of sense to me. What they were doing didn't make a lot of sense to me. They kidnapped Jimmy, and they're like, we're gonna kill you. And then the gorilla sympathizes with him and lets him go. And I'm just like...
But he had 2 gay dads in the end.
Yeah, exactly. They adopted him.
Yeah, I didn't care for them either, or at least this version of them. So they are not originally Superman villains.
Mm-hmm.
These 2 characters are not Superman villains. They actually come from a team in the DC universe called the Doom Patrol, which they also have their own show, or I think it ended already. By the way, if you want to see one of the craziest, weirdest comic book shows ever, watch Doom Patrol.
Okay.
That is one of the most, in a good way. If you like weird stuff, then yeah, it's, and I mean, this is spoilers who hasn't seen Doom Patrol, but at some point in that show, there's a sentient street. Like a street. Like a literal, like, street that's sentient. That's how weird Doom Patrol gets. But I'm going off topic. But those characters originally came from that comic book. Why they're in the Superman animated series, I don't know. I don't make decisions. I want to talk about his whole Kryptonian like heritage and all that stuff. Like, I wanted to touch upon that. But before I touch upon that, what was your favorite episodes?
My favorite episode specifically for the title, Kiss Kiss Fallen Portal, because that is obviously an Oron High reference.
Yes.
Kiss Kiss Fall in Love.
Isn't it also great that the first time he wears the suit is like literally straight up Sailor Moon?
Oh, that was...
Oh my god.
Sailor Moon transformation needed. I can't think of the name of the episode. It might have been the one I was just hating on, but the one where he gets his super hearing.
No.
I don't remember which episode that was, but I thought it was really interesting how he portrayed him having his super hearing, but also my favorite scene that I quote all the time is when he comes home and Jimmy's like, "Are you okay, man?" He's like, "I can hear everything." And Jimmy, they have problems, and clearly he's got some problems of his own because he hasn't slept in several days. That was one of my favorites, and then the finale was a big favorite. I really like the dynamic between Lois Lane and Superman, like, especially in the final episode. I was shipping them prior, of course. I got very annoyed with it during. But the end, I was like, perfect.
You were shipping them, but they were destined to be shipped.
Exactly.
It's canon. It's part of the lore.
Yeah.
Like, Superman hasn't been with... The only closest thing I'd be having another woman, so to speak, like, was during his high school days with Lana Lang.
Oh.
Which, there's a TV show of his high school days called Smallville. It was around for like 10 seasons. It was good at the beginning, but towards the end it started getting silly. Because they kept, you need to be Superman at some point.
Yeah.
Like 10 seasons for you to be Superman? Come on.
Yeah, that's stupid.
So they started, like, having these prototype, like, suits that wasn't... I don't know. They finally sort of got him in the suit in the final episode. Mm-hmm. And then they hint that, like, him and Lois were going to be a thing. But his other girl, when he was in high school, was Lana Lang. Mm. But destined to be with Lois forever. Mm-hmm. And yes, they do have kids in the future and all that stuff. Mm. Like, there's a whole TV show about that too.
Yeah,
Superman and Lois.
I know that one because I know the actor who plays Superman.
It's actually a pretty good show. It's not bad.
I've seen, I think, clips or an episode or two because, like, my dad and my brother. But
I don't know if it's gonna continue to be good because I heard
these kinds of things never do.
The next season might be its final one, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, only because the CW was like sold to some company, so they're like they're not doing it anymore because they used to have like a whole DC universe on that channel.
Yeah.
They had the Arrow,
They had-
Flash,
And then all their, like, the kids are the new age superheroes, like
yeah, they had
Stargirl.
Legends of Tomorrow. They had a ton of they had a whole universe there. But since they got bought out by somebody else, they started canceling like most of them. And Superman and Lois, I think, spun off from Supergirl. And Supergirl was part of that too. Supergirl was okay. The problem with those shows was the budget because they couldn't do the stuff that they could do.
CW sucks. I'm not
yeah,
gonna lie. No,
it does.
don't sue me. But
No, I
Pay your writers.
yeah, the CW sucked because of the budget restraints. Because the best show they had on there, because it used very little special effects, was Arrow. But then, and the Flash was good up until a certain seasons. I think it was like season 6 or something or 7 where that show just went downhill.
Yeah.
I am such a huge fan of the Flash that I just refuse to watch the final season because the show got so bad.
Well, there's also a point that it starts to drag because they're trying to, some of them, like, they stick to the original storyline, but eventually they want to venture off into, like, things to make it more modernized or to relate more to people now and stuff, and or just more exciting things, and I say that in air quotes, and it's just not it. Like, it's too much now.
What I love about this show, because going back to Superman, is that everyone gets equal footing of how much screen time they have.
Yes.
Yeah.
The show is called Superman, so we get Superman as the focus, but we're also not shortchanging the supporting cast.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
The problem that the Flash and some of these other shows like Arrow and stuff, like it happened on Arrow and it happened on Flash. I'm going to talk about those two specifically. The show is called The Flash, but when you have an entire season where the show is not about the Flash anymore, like it's about the Flash's girlfriend, we have problems.
No.
No.
Yeah,
Like
no.
Iris, and I'm sorry, but Iris West is just a poor imitation of Lois Lane. I'm sorry, because she's also a journalist. I know.
Drops the mic.
Yes. I don't think anyone would argue with that because Lois Lane is obviously the better character. And then Arrow, they did the same thing. The show is about Green Arrow, and he was barely in it. I'm like, and this happens, at the beginning of the show, it was about them, and then as the show progressed, it wasn't about them anymore.
Yeah, right.
And
It's
it
like
was
you
just
don't have the right to be called Green Arrow.
No, it's like this show is about everyone else but you. Like,
Oh, so
yeah, that's
they,
what.
they couldn't focus on the Flash because he was moving too fast for them.
Ha ha.
They couldn't record it.
I need a laugh track. We need to be like an old sitcom.
Just copy and paste our laughs.
I find I'm gonna edit it.
Guy.
I'm gonna edit it in. So back to the show because we went off the rails with
Off the charts.
me ranting about those terrible shows that I used to be fans. I was a fan of those shows, and I just
Nerd.
Guess what? Off
they
topic,
broke my heart.
but on topic. I was a fan of Riverdale, and look where that went.
I heard
Oh, Lord.
Riverdale just went.
The first season was good.
Yes, everyone says that.
Yeah, and then
it just became some.
Yeah.
It didn't know what it was.
You know what it needed? Superman.
There you go. Sprinkle some Clark Kent in there.
Unlike those shows, like this one stayed focused with the plot and what they set up, and they paid it off like in a certain way. So I feel like overall the entire season was good. Like,
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I was worried that it was all going to be just jokes, and because at first glance that's what I was worried.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. Like the first time I saw it, I'm like, I don't know. Is this gonna be another Teen Titans Go? Which, like, if you've seen the original Teen Titans, the original Teen Titans is
It's
so much better than Teen
Yeah.
Titans Go. Because Teen Titans Go literally just like, we're not gonna even be superheroes at this point.
No.
We're just gonna make jokes.
It was stupid.
Yeah.
It was like the Wonder Pets.
We're just gonna make jokes. That's all they're gonna do. So Overall, and
Teamwork.
before we end the whole thing, I want to talk about the ending. Did you guys understand what they were setting up?
Wait. Before we talk about the ending, can we talk about major character flaw?
Oh yeah.
About Lois? I
Yeah.
knew this was coming. Okay, talk about it.
Wait.
Who wants
You
to
can
start?
start, but I just want to say, as women, we feel very strongly about this.
Okay, don't offend Superman fans. I get it. You guys never seen anything other than this.
Yeah.
So we're gonna cut you some slack.
Well, this does lead to the question I was bringing up before. Is she exactly like comic book Lois Lane? Because if she is, then because that's what I was trying to tell myself. Like, well, maybe they're following more of the comic storyline, and that's why.
She's always been spontaneous. She's always been impulsive.
That's not what I mean.
So what
All right, hear her complaint, and then remember my question.
The thing is, like, we see Lois Lane. She has a great character design. We love that she's spontaneous and that she's spunky, and she's always like, I'm gonna dive headfirst into this. But certain aspects of her, as I'm watching, I'm just like, why did they write you this way? And part of it is that I felt like they stereotyped her so hard
As a woman.
at certain points. For starters, like, her number one flaw was that she meets Clark Kent. They're both interns with Jimmy Olsen at the Daily Planet.
Mm-hmm.
And she wants to get the big scoop. She wants to interview Superman right away. And first thing she does is lie to Jimmy and Clark, which could very well cost them their jobs. Okay, this is, like, not that big of a deal because she was just introduced. There's plenty of room for character development. So she ends up apologizing eventually, and both Jimmy and Clark Kent forgive.
To get back to my point that I just said,
Yeah.
she's an impulsive character. She does things before she doesn't think about it. She just does it.
Right.
That's her character trait.
Mm-hmm. Which is fine.
But there
That's
is
fine.
yes,
I'm not talking about
there
it.
is character development where she becomes less of that as time goes on, as she gets older.
Right.
And there's more of a teen dynamic between her and Superman. Like, they have an understanding. Like,
Well, my problem is in the romantic aspect, they don't because.
Yeah, I was
Yes.
just getting to that.
that also happens, like, in other versions where they just don't seem to, like, get on the right footing
Yeah.
initially.
Well, where we feel like she was, it's not even that. Where we feel like she was stereotyped is like, she was being very hypocritical. Like, she would get mad. I mean, yeah, like, the things that the topics were important.
She's a flawed character.
I know. I'm just saying, how many women are written this way specifically? Like, it was overused in a romantic plot for a woman is what I'm trying
It's
to get at.
yeah. Well, for her, now if you would have said like another character on the show was written exactly the same way, then I would agree with you. But for her character specifically, it's not that off from what she's supposed to be.
Okay.
Okay.
She is not always that impulsive, and she does not always. She's very career driven, by the way. So there's other versions of Lois Lane where she will do anything, and even before she even knew Clark and Superman, because they kind of just like instantly like, oh, I already know who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Other versions that doesn't happen for a while.
Yeah.
So
Right.
her being impulsive and doing anything to get ahead in her career,
Yeah. but
that's part of her like thing.
that's not. But that's not.
Yeah.
The impulsivity isn't the problem. It's like, she would flip out on him for. She wouldn't hear him out, and she would flip out on him for like, why didn't you tell me you were Superman and stuff like that. But it's like, look at all the shit that you were saying, and not only that, but you lie constantly. To
Yeah, well,
which that's
yeah.
impulsive,
I
yes,
mean-
but like emotionally, when you're trying
Jimmy
to
Olsen's kind of the same.
how.
They're both impulsive. They're both like they do things that probably is not a good idea.
No, I'm saying impulsivity aside, though.
Yeah.
Like, that's not, like I said, that's not the problem. that they're impulsive. I understand that part, and I can
Yeah.
connect to those things. I'm saying, like, here,
So-
you have better examples because you can remember more from the show.
So the biggest example is probably that, like, after Lois Lane is forgiven, right? She eventually finds out Clark Kent is Superman. She gets royally pissed off at him. So my first issue with her character was like, all right, so you said a lie that would cost Jimmy and Clark their jobs, but when it comes to Clark Kent hiding his identity as Superman, which could cost him his life, you get mad with him. That was the first thing. Then I was like, all right, okay, I get it. If I was Lois Lane, I would be a little upset with him too. Like, oh, you can entrust me with this, but you're trying to date me, kind of thing. Got it.
Well, it would be shocking news if you were dating someone and you find out they're not from
Right.
planet Earth.
Right, exactly. So, like, I got it. I was like, okay, I would
It's-
be upset too.
It's extreme circumstances, so you start acting erratic.
So-
So I'm a little bit more sympathetic. That's all.
So, as time goes on, what really did it for me was that particular scene. Of course, it was the episode with the gorilla and the robot.
Mm-hmm.
And Clark Kent and Lois are looking for Jimmy, and they're out in the forest or whatever, and they're upset with each other again because Superman didn't tell Lois, hey, I'm Superman. And at one point, she turns this around and makes it very much about her, and straight up says, well, if you lied to me about this, were you lying about your feelings for me? And that
Where's the correlation?
I was like,
It has-
where is this coming from, babe?
Yeah.
That was so stereotypical to put a woman in that
Yeah.
position.
Also, you have to realize who her dad was.
Well, okay, yeah, but we didn't know at the
At
time.
the
Who's
time,
all-
we didn't
yes.
know.
Her dad is not the greatest human being in the world. Like,
No, but that's why I was asking, because
Yeah.
if she was really based off of the comics in this specific series,
she's a very young version of.
that
Lois.
makes sense to me, because
So,
when the comics were
I
written,
think
women would be acting like
Yes.
that in that sense. Yeah.
if she
Right.
was a mid-30s to 40s woman, she probably would not have been written that way.
Yeah.
I think she would have more maturity to it.
Mm-hmm.
So an example is, if you ever get a chance to watch it, I don't know, you might enjoy it. It's a little bit more straightforward superhero stuff, so it doesn't have the anime flair or the humor.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like depressing or dark or anything. It's light. That Lois Lane also has some of the traits of this younger one, but way more mature. Like she's already an established journalist.
Mhm.
She's like the best journalist in the Daily Planet. She knows what she wants.
Yeah.
Like she kind of like commands. She's not that she commands the relationship, but she's fully in charge and confident in herself.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, she doesn't know that Clark, in this version of that version I'm talking about, she doesn't know that Clark and Superman are the same.
Yeah.
But the way she treats Clark, she still does a, hey, Smallville, that kind of stuff,
Mhm.
which is a lowest thing that's been done for years.
Yeah.
But I think she's, in this version, this new version, I think it's because she's inexperienced and young and just starting in the workforce and maybe new with love or having a boyfriend, that I think she doesn't know how to deal with all this stuff that's being thrown at her.
Yeah.
So this is my only defense for her characterization.
Which I would understand, but
Yes.
like I said, in a lot of shows, movies, books, that's
I
how a
know.
woman is portrayed in that situation,
Yeah.
and that's not
But there's
necessarily how they're
also
going to
other
react.
there are strong female
Oh,
characters.
yeah,
in this show.
100%.
Absolutely.
I mean, Amanda Waller, even though she's technically a sort of a villain,
Mm-hmm.
kind of, sort of. She works for the government, so technically she doesn't think she's a villain. She is not your typical woman. Like,
No.
she's
No.
big. She's because there's barely any like black women on television to begin with, especially animated. So she's not your stereotypical like woman.
Yeah.
So there's other characters within that world that are not gonna be exactly like Lois. So maybe they just wanted to have a inexperienced, naive Lois.
Yeah.
I don't
Yes.
think she's gonna be like that every season.
Yeah.
I hope not, because if she is, they royally fucked up her personality.
Yeah.
Like if it is just a character flaw that
No.
she's gonna get
I think
development
it's
from, that's
because
great.
she's young, and yeah.
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 I think it's just the age. Getting in the workforce is probably like her first internship, and then she's getting all this stuff from her dad, and then she just found out the guy that she's crushing is a freaking alien. Oh, and on top of that, this alien might turn on us and kill all of humanity.
And my dad wants to kill
I
him.
also
yes.
I also think it's the way that they portrayed all of this, because you have she gets mad at him, and then the next episode they forget, or whatever that episode, they forgive each other, and then the next episode, oh my god, how can I trust him? He's going to turn into this. And then I'm going to keep this from him after you got mad.
Right.
That was all like back to back to back. That's way too much, like throwing her around mentally. And it's just, it kind of, I don't know, it weakens the plot in my head because it's not creative.
It felt like that they didn't know how to write Lois Lane without having her either drastically in love with him or drastically upset with him.
Yeah.
But there is a change.
Yes.
Towards
yeah,
the end,
there is.
and I felt like that was intentional.
Yes.
I think they wanted to her go from naive, annoying, to eventually like have character growth to.
But you know, I just feel like it could have been done more tastefully if they were doing it in one season.
Yeah.
You know, if they were gonna, it would have been better to spread it out more if they were gonna do it the way that they went about it until like the second season.
It really is all about pacing at the end of this, because it's like if we take a show that's like Steven Universe, Rebecca Sugar had 11-minute increments, not including the 30-minute specials, and the way she was able to pace and get her plot points across was insane. So when you have a show like this, it's like, I know you're capable of writing it a little bit better, and you're actively choosing not to.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that it's horribly written, because, like I said, I'm a fan of the show. I like the show. I do think it has great plot points, and I think Jimmy and Clark are definitely very well written. And the villains are also well written. Lois Lane, I'm just like, you took a stereotype from the comic and you kind of just ran with it.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I love Lois. I'm a sucker for her as a character. But there are definitely like aspects that if I were to write her character, it's like, well, I would change this. Like they had the opportunity to make her a little bit more modern and mature, and they just
like her
didn't.
character arc wasn't as up to par as Kent and Jimmy's, and if she was such a big character just like the two of them, why wasn't it? They got stuck. That's all, you know.
Yeah. That's how it felt anyway.
Yeah.
I think season 2 is going to be a little bit more complicated for her because of her dad.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I feel like
for sure.
she's going to mature a lot more, I think, because the stakes are higher. I also think season 2 might be a little darker than season 1. This is my initial impression. I don't think the humor is going to go away, but I think it is going to go darker. And then, because I want to end this soon, because I have things to do.
Sorry. Sorry we ranted.
Yeah.
Feminism.
I want to talk about all your criticism is valid. I mean, I don't think it's a perfect show. Like, there's certain things that I would have preferred, like villain wise, or maybe more fight scenes.
Yeah.
Like I would prefer to see like more fight scenes than what we got. It's not a perfect series, but
it has the potential, and we
does.
just see where it could have fulfilled that potential.
Overall, I enjoyed the series. I will definitely be watching it again.
Yeah.
That's like my end. Like, I enjoyed most of it. Like, I really liked it.
Yeah.
The ending. I want to talk about the ending really quick. This is spoiler territory. So if you don't want to know about this,
giving
don't.
spoilers the whole time.
Well, yeah. Well,
I gave one of our episodes descriptions.
Pretty much the entire thing is spoilers.
Puts the warning at the end.
I put it at the end. If you're listening to this, then you
should know.
know that we're going to be talking about a show, like, and what we thought about it. The ending. I don't know if they're going to go so obvious with who the villain is that they introduced, because they say one famous phrase that this villain says literally in every version he's in. When they say kneel before me, I think that was a hint at Zod. Zod is, and I have to explain who Zod is because you guys don't know who Zod is.
Not a clue.
I think that's the obvious choice of who the villain is, but they might throw a curveball and it might be somebody else that's Kryptonian. Zod is a Kryptonian that he wanted to take over Krypton at one point.
Yeah.
And then he gets arrested with his minions and his people who followed him, and they throw him in this thing called the Phantom Zone.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know that thing in the show where the spaceships are coming through a portal?
Mm-hmm.
That's the Phantom Zone.
Mm-hmm.
It's a place where they send all of the Kryptonian criminals. It's like a dark void of nothingness that they send all these people at.
Oh, see, what I was thinking
Yeah.
was that whoever it was, took over Krypton and then was trying to take over other aspects of the universe,
No.
so they did the portal to Earth.
Krypton is gone. That planet is dead.
Damn,
It blew
okay.
up. There is no Krypton.
Yeah.
So though, I know you guys are new at this, but the origin, because this connects to the origins of Superman. Jor-El is the father of Superman.
Yeah.
Superman's real name is Kal-El, not Clark Kent.
Mhm.
Clark Kent is his adoptive name. His real name, his Kryptonian name, is Kal-El. Jor-El, depending on what version of Jor-El you're thinking about, I don't know, they might do it different for season 2. That guy, the old guy with the patch,
Yeah.
that's Jor-El.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I already, when we first saw him, I was like, that's going to be his father.
That's
They made it pretty obvious.
Mhm.
that's Jor-El. Anyways,
Wait,
something
can we just talk about how he would speak Kryptonian, and then when when Clark left, that he was like, son. I was like,
He was like, "My
now you
son,
know
now you
English.
know English."
Well, I think he spoke it like that because us, the audience.
No, I know. It was just funny.
It was just weird, yeah.
It was random. It's like, okay.
Anyways, depending on the circumstances of what version of Superman you've watched, the planet is about to blow.
Yeah.
The planet's in destruction mode. So, Jor-El and Superman's mom, which I'm forgetting her damn name, they put Clark in a spaceship and shoot him off into. It's like the Moses story. Like they put him in a basket.
Clark.
Yeah, and they shoot him into space,
Yeah.
and he crashes in Kansas and Smallville.
Every
and
baby's favorite experience.
then, and Jonathan Kent and Martha Kent adopt him, and that's his origin story. That's like the brief origin story.
It's like the storks of space.
Yes. Zod. Well, before all the blowing up thing happens, Jor-El sends Zod, because he's part of like he's like a political person and like or part of like the government of Krypton or something.
Yeah.
He sends Zod into the Phantom Zone for who knows how long, and somehow they get out. And the first thing that Zod wants to do is, when he gets out, is either kill whoever's the descendants of Jor-El, which is Clark, and take over Earth and make Krypton on Earth with the remaining Kryptonians that are with them.
Yeah.
So that's what they want to do, probably. Now, the obvious choice is Zod, who's the villain that they didn't reveal who it was. That's the obvious one. But maybe they'll throw a twist and be his second in command, which is Faora, which is she is a stone cold killer. All she does, she shows up in the movie Man of Steel. So if you guys need to watch Man of Steel, I want to see, because it's such a sharp contrast in tone.
Okay.
Like from this show, and then you watch Man of Steel, and you're like, this is dark.
I mean, we could try, but the darkness might have been what, as twisted as I am, the
Yeah.
darkness might have been what threw me off from watching any of it, you know?
Yeah.
But we can try. We'll watch it.
It would be interesting to see, like, your opinions on a more darker. it's a more like not toned down because the actions are like very over the top, but the whole like overall tone of it is like more somber. I think that's it. I think we talked. Overall, I enjoyed the series. I can't wait till it comes back.
Yeah.
It probably won't be for a while because of the strikes and stuff, but
Pay your writers.
pay your writers.
I have a question. Were there any plot twists that surprised you as somebody who is a fan? Super fan.
No,
No.
there was. I didn't realize that guy was General whatever his
Her dad?
name was. Yeah, I didn't realize that was her dad.
Yeah.
So that was like, oh, okay, because he normally doesn't get a big role in
Yeah.
the Superman stuff. Like,
I
the
didn't guess
Superman
it.
and Lois series, he does have a big role in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But his role in that show, he's neither a bad guy or a villain, but he's neither on Superman's side. He's kind of right, like,
He doesn't know what to do.
because
Yeah.
in that show he has grandkids.
Yeah.
So he cares about his daughter,
Mhm.
his son-in-law, and so he has to deal with doing his government duties, but also making sure that the government doesn't do any harm to Superman, or force Superman to do things that he doesn't want to do.
Yeah.
Because the government does tend to try to make Superman work for them,
Yeah.
and Superman's like, I don't, like, he would say, I have no allegiance to, like, any country, like, I protect all. So, and that's why Superman's awesome.
Period. Superman, we love you. You're so super.
We need more Supermans in this world, and less
kidding.
less a-holes.
Bet, give me a cape.
If people were more like Superman, the world would be a better place. That's just all I'm saying.
Well.
Unless you're in the wrong universe.
Unless
And Superman comes to kill us all.
God, that opens up a can of worms, because there's a whole story called Injustice. And
Injustice.
it's called
love it.
Injustice, and what triggers him to become a villain in that world is some dark stuff. It's really
Oh
bad.
God. I couldn't even-
It involves Lois. It involves her being pregnant. It involves a Joker. Like, it's crazy.
Scandal.
It's in the R-rated territory. It's like,
I'm hearing possible sexual assault.
no, not that far. No, it's not in that. No, it's more in the.
No.
It's just a very violent and over-the-top way of just killing somebody.
No.
Did the Joker kill the baby in the stomach?
Okay, I'm just gonna
In the
say what
Okay.
happened. Spoiler.
Spoiler.
So,
You should put like a wee woo.
so somehow they make Superman hallucinate
Oh.
that he is fighting Doomsday, which is like this one villain that actually killed him at one point.
Yeah.
But he comes back to life because he's Superman. And what he doesn't realize is that the Joker drugged him with, it was a mixture of kryptonite and something else. And while he was fighting Doomsday, he was actually killing Lois Lane
Oh my god.
while she's pregnant
I'm in.
with
I'm
his baby.
in pain.
This is all. Oh, and on top of that, I don't know what happened first. Like, he explodes a bomb in Metropolis too, that pretty much annihilates all of Metropolis. So the Joker just effed up everything that Clark cares about.
Yeah.
And then
How do you even fucking bounce back from that?
and then
You don't.
Batman captures. They have the Joker in custody, and Superman walks up to him and punches right through his chest of the Joker and kills the Joker.
As
As
he
you
should.
should have.
Yeah.
Then he just didn't stop there. he became a fascist. He took
God damn it,
he really
Superman.
did. He took over.
I
like,
killed my wife
I
and
might be-
baby, so I became a fascist.
My memory might be vague. I might be telling this whole Injustice story the wrong way because I haven't played the game. It's based on a game and a graphic novel. I haven't, so I might be completely butchering the entire story.
Mhm.
But that's the cliff notes of it. Like it's yes, yeah. He just takes over. Like he just like
Yeah.
the governments. You're all useless. Get out. I'm in charge now.
Yeah.
Then he recruits people to his cause, and then he just becomes the dictator of the entire world.
Okay.
Wow.
And then Batman becomes like a renegade freedom fighter against Superman's evil regime.
Wild then.
Yeah, because whoever disobeys him, he just kills. So yeah, fascism. On a happy note, this show is nothing like that.
Yet. No.
Yet. All right, that's it for us. All three of us, for the most part, enjoyed
Yeah.
the series.
It was really
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Like thumbs up, everything.
Would watch again. We'll continue to watch in
Yeah.
the future.
Yes.
10 out of 10.
Because this was supposed to be a review, so this is our review.
5 out of 5 stars on Yelp.
Yes. I recommend it. It's awesome. Okay, bye.
Bye.